Hello everyone, I have some crazy content coming, so buckle up. My ex and I used to go to a Cancun resort every year with a bunch of our mutual friends. I found out my ex was cheating on me when I accidentally got a flight confirmation email that he booked tickets for himself and the other girl. It was rough. Tried to have a civil breakup, but he refused to pay me for the Cancun vacation that I had already prepaid. I tried to get my money back, but he refused. After our breakup, it took me several weeks to find a new place to live and move my things out of his house. On the last trip to the house, I asked him one last time for the money and he again refused. So I accidentally packed his current passport in my last box of things and left my expired passport in its place. Since he has already booked the tickets, he apparently didn't check the passport until he was at the airport and was denied the international flight because he didn't have a current passport. I never did get my money, but I did get immense satisfaction that he didn't get to go on vacation. My husband and I are in our late 30s and child-free. My husband and I had been saving up for almost a decade to move to a tropical paradise. About 2 years ago, we bit the bullet and moved to our dream location. Housing here is super expensive, like Hawaii prices, so all we could afford was half of a duplex. It is beautiful and on the water with places for our boat. Unfortunately, Karen, Billy Bob, the boyfriend, and her 3 gremlins live in the other unit. Setup: there is some period of time we just went for a week here and there, but we live here full time now. The entire duplex was owned by an older gentleman who rented out both sides. The sides do not match at all. One side is a 5-bedroom, 3-bath. The other side of the duplex is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. We bought the 5-bedroom. On our side of the property, we have 90% of the backyard, a gazebo, and dockage, about 150 since it is on a corner. The other side has a small backyard, patio, and maybe 15 of dockage. The rental leases say the renters are entitled to their specific backyards, but there were no fences or anything, so all the renters shared the entire backyard. After we bought the house, Karen immediately tried to throw her weight around that they expected to continue with that privilege. I told her if she asked politely, we would try to accommodate her. She thought this meant she could use our backyard whenever she wanted. Party incident: one day my husband and I are enjoying some drinks outside when a delivery truck shows to set up a giant blow-up thing in our backyard. I asked Karen WTF she thought she was doing, and she said it was her kid's birthday. Then she had the gall to say it was a family and friends only event, so we had to stay inside our house. Not wanting to be a total butthole and ruin some little girl's birthday, I told Karen after this she had no access to our backyard, period. Karen shrugged and kept setting up for the party. During the party, a drunk adult wandered into our house, which shocked us all. I said Karen's house is the other side, and he said, "Oh." Karen said she owned the whole property and to use whichever bathroom was available. I directed him to Karen's bathroom, and soon after she came storming into our house, screaming about how dare we make her look bad to her friends and how selfish we are, we couldn't even spare one bathroom. She said we didn't deserve all this space with just us. I told Karen to get the hell out of my house or I would be calling the cops. She finally left and the party wrapped up shortly after. Backyard remodel: after the party incident, we decided we needed to clearly define the backyard and build a fence. While we were spending the money, we decided to update the patio, put in a fire pit, and an outdoor kitchen. While the contractor was on site, nosy Karen had to come investigate. Since the fence would be the last thing built, I was vague and just stuck to telling her about the patio update. You could see her face light up because of course in her mind, what's ours is hers. When the workers started on the fence, Karen came out screaming for the work to stop. I went outside and told the workers to keep working and told Karen to butt out. Of course, in true Karen fashion, she called the cops. What happened next was hilarity on my part after explaining to the cop that we were building a fence on our property and the landlord, of which Karen was not, knew about it. When the cop gave Karen a stern lecture, I thought her head was going to explode. She went back into her house and slammed the sliding door so hard it sounded like something cracked. We got our fence and I thought that would be in the end, but of course not. The boat incident: one day, Billy Bob entered the picture and he was as much a terrible neighbor as Karen. He would throw cigarette butts and empty beer cans over our fence for disrespecting his woman. I didn't know Paradise had trailer trash, but Billy Bob is the epitome of the stereotype. Billy Bob has a boat. A 30 fishing boat to be precise. Of course, that side of the duplex only has 15 of dockage. Since we have so much dockage and only one boat, we rent out the other dockage spots as month to month. People come and go, so if we don't receive rent from them by the end of the month and the boat disappears, we think nothing of it. We had a renter who tied up their boat on the property line, but Billy Bob wanted to park his boat and needed that space. Karen and Billy Bob posed as us. We were out of town, told the renters to be gone at the end of the month, and then parked Billy Bob's boat on the dockage. I only found out about it weeks later because the renter left a nasty review on the rental site we use. They said we were rude and went back on the verbal agreement to let them stay for 3 more months. I was like, what the frick is all this? After a phone call, I quickly put 2 and 2 together. I called the cops who told Karen and Billy Bob they need to move their boat or it would be towed, the equivalent of it anyway. Karen and Billy Bob started screaming the boat is fully on their property, it isn't. Then changed to no one can own the water, true, but a seawall is deeded. Then said that we are liars. And at some point, Billy Bob punched a cop and went to jail. I felt bad for the cops, so took them all snacks the next day with a note apologizing for neighbor drama. I ended up winning my small claims suit against them for lost rental income, but of course haven't seen a dime. I eventually convinced the dockage renters to come back and gave them a few months free as compensation. Final revenge, if you've made it this far, congratulations. Get ready for a juicy justice boner. So with the collapsing market, we were trying to figure out what to do with our savings when a perfect opportunity opened up. The landlord who owned both properties was in desperate need of some cash and was tired of managing the property from 2,000 miles away, because of course Karen is a Karen and called him weekly for every little thing. His only stipulation was we let the poor single mom who has been his renter for 8 years finish her lease, which is up in July. Since we just have money we were trying to reinvest, and because now we get to control our neighbors, heck yeah, we jumped on that. Since we didn't need a realtor or mortgage and an inspection had been done just a year ago for the old landlord to refinance, everything closed in just under 2 weeks. Karen was aware of a change of ownership. We registered the property under an LLC, but didn't know who. Until 8 days ago. I went over to Karen's house and knocked on the door. Karen answered with a "What the frick do you want, clitoris?" I smiled, handed her our landlord information, and sweetly reminded her rent was due by Friday, but she could just hand me the check if that was easier. I've always heard descriptions of people's faces turning white, but this was the first time I have actually seen it. I told Karen that we are honoring her lease until the end of July, but afterwards she had better make plans to move because we instead to remodel it before these next tenants moved in. By Harlot. Glossary. Kindy, kindergarten. Where you learn, as a small child, not to run with scissors. Also where a lifelong acrimonious relationship is formed with glue. Not clag glue though. That crap was tasty. Scone, a delicious flour-based baked treat. Grandma scones are the best, with cream and raspberry jam. The scones you try and make yourself are excellent hockey pucks. Secret Squirrel, a cartoon I liked when I was a kid. A squirrel secret agent who has a mole mate. They have gadgets and adventures. Nick Cave, Australian Renaissance man. Nick Cave is mostly known as a singer/songwriter. Excellent revenge planning music. Relay logic, was used to run elevators before there were computers. So many things have relays. Little electromechanical wonders. I love them. Okay, so, a relay has a coil in it, that you energize. This creates a tiny electromagnet and pulls a piece of ferrous metal down. This changes the state of the contacts. Easy huh? Just like a light switch, but without the need of fingers. The story, over the years, my job has been pretty diverse. I enjoy all the master electrician and instrumentation work, but building and maintaining networks has been a joy as well. There are so many pretty blinking lights. All the testing and commissioning tools are fun to play with as well. There are also lasers. One thing that never gets old is seeing people's faces, who don't know me that well, when I rock up in high-vis clothing to start messing around in network cabinets. Here I am, a slightly scruffy-looking older guy, glue and resin on work boots, knocking about in IT. It's pretty funny, and handy sometimes. Glue and I haven't been on good terms since kindy. I don't know why. As an apprentice, I managed to get half a bottle of blue conduit glue in my hair for frick's sake. Tom was a junior gov system administrator, working at a regional IT department when the position of IT manager became available at a 2,000 student Govt high school. Tom was encouraged, finesse/manipulated/conned, to apply. See, Tom was a bellend. As a wanker of the first order, in the 4 months that he'd been there after transferring in, Tom had pissed off the whole Govt IT team. You know that person who has to comment on everything, thinks they know everything, thinks they are always the smartest in a room, but is actually only about 67% competent? And a bit lazy? This was Tom. The principal was so glad to have a Govt sysadmin apply for the role that they changed the job title from supervisor to manager, to entice him. The role had an office and 2 support staff. It was also arranged that Tom would be given more control over the school network than previous supervisors. I heard later that his then Govt IT director may have suggested the title enhancement to the principal, as part of the finesse. Tom had his own fiefdom. It also didn't take him long to piss the principal off either. As well as the admin staff, and most of the teachers. I'd done work with Govt IT for some time before Tom showed up and knew everyone, though only gotten to know him peripherally. He had yet to rub me the wrong way. We had 2 biggish jobs at the high school, about a year after Tom started there. Change out a crap ton of keyed door locks for a brand new, standalone, network door access system we would install and maintain. And change out existing room lighting for energy-efficient LED panels. These 2 jobs would each be done during a 2-week term break, either side of a 10-week school term. I would get to run both jobs. In the planning phase of the door access network, Tom made it known that he would be trained on the new door system and be in charge of it, since it was a network in his school. The principal made it known whose school it was, and that Tom would stay right the F away from it, since it was standalone and had nothing to do with him. Tom was not happy about this. One Tuesday, a little over 5 weeks since the door system had been live, I was driving to a job when I got the phone call that kicked off this tale. High school called. They're having trouble with the new door system. Turning the car around, I wasn't sure what annoyed me more. That my sing-along with Blink 182 had just been interrupted, or that I would now miss out on scones fresh from the oven. At the system operator terminal PC in an admin office, I hear that there were 2 issues. Some teachers couldn't open some doors this morning, and some other doors that the admin staff tried to change functions on weren't responding. I suspected the regular user teething issues. We were 5 weeks into the 10-week term at this stage. They went on to explain that they'd looked and found the teacher's door access had been changed to remove some doors. They'd re-added the doors and fixed that, but the doors they were trying to change functions on weren't responding. Looking in the system on their user login, they were right. They'd re-added these doors correctly for these teachers. But why wasn't the system updating the door changes? Logging in as the admin, I see that apart from the hub in this office, the other 18 network hubs are not responding. Weird. Unlocking the cabinet, I see that the fiber optic patch lead which connects to the other hubs is dangling in space. Very weird. These take some doing to unplug, they don't just fall out. Reconnecting the patch lead and rechecking the network, I see the other hubs are responding, so I push the door changes through. There are still questions though, so I open the system log. I see that the changes to the teacher's access was made by one of the admin users at 5:33 p.m., and the hubs went offline soon after. Strange, because the admin staff finished at 4:30 p.m. The log also showed that someone who is not admin staff entered this office at 5:08 p.m. Tom. I sat there and thought about asking the admin staff some questions, but decided against it. I suspected that Tom had insinuated himself here over the past couple of weeks to get the gist of how the door program worked, and had gotten a user login to boot. If I kicked up a fuss, he might be able to IT double-speak the teacher changes. Also, the patch lead being out could be waved away as incompetence on my part. As I was thinking, the admin staff said that Tom had been in earlier and had overheard the issues they were having. He'd said something to the effect of "that's what you get when you let electricians manage a network." Oh okay, he was being pissy about being banned from this system. My crystal ball went through a variety of scenarios, and I decided to let sleeping dogs lie for now. 3 days later, on the Friday, I got another call about the high school's door system. Checking in and checking it out, I found that the issues they had were almost identical to the first, except that only 4 hubs were offline. After going to one of the affected hubs and plugging the patch lead back in, I opened the system log again. To find it empty. What the flying duck? The daily backup file had been deleted as well. Only my admin login could do these things, and how the F did he get that? Checking that the secondary backup on an external drive was still intact, I dumped that into my laptop and had a swivel on the chair for a few minutes. Yep, this backup showed that the admin login had been used to do the teacher's changes this time, and delete the system log. All after the admin staff had left yesterday. This operator console PC had been provided by Tom. It was one of the school assets. The govt image was supposed to have been wiped and a clean operating system put on, so it couldn't be connected to the gov networks. Maybe Tom had a keylogger in there somewhere. I gave it a good Sparky go, but couldn't find anything. I even checked for cameras. After changing the admin password, I left and put on some Nick Cave in the car. That evening, while Mr. Cave and Daniels kept me company, I looked up keyloggers. And then went through my boxes of spare parts toys. It was secret squirrel time. On Monday, I timed my arrival to the school just as the admin staff were leaving. I just wanted to check some things on the system. They left and left me to it. I placed one small camera under the desk to see the back of the PC tower, one on a shelf looking at the screen, and one on top of a corner cupboard to see the room. Happy with my work, I went home. That Thursday, same thing again. Different teachers affected, and different hubs offline, but the same thing. Admin login used to wipe the logs and backup. I changed the admin password again, for reasons. After coming back that afternoon to retrieve footage from the cameras, I figured out what he was doing. The first time, he used the user login to make changes, pulled the patch lead, then installed a keylogger device on the keyboard USB cable into the tower. It looked like a little black USB adapter thingy. He used this to get my admin login to wipe the system log and delete the backup, so there'd be no evidence of his card accessing the room. What he was doing was a freaking stupid way to go about it. His ego must be a thing of wonder. The contempt he must have held for my abilities, as just a Sparky, to figure things out, even without the cameras, was boggling. I maintain systems and networks far more complex than this. Like the school's security system for example. Or a similar door access system in a much more secure facility. Okay effer, game on. Over the next 4 weeks, Tom and I went through these dance steps 4 more times. I heard all about him suggesting that if he ran the system, a professional sysadmin, there wouldn't be issues like these. I didn't mention to anyone about the logs or backups. I just kept collecting my video and secondary backups. Because through my association with GovIT I'd learned a few things about their policies. And wanted to F with Tom, and maybe collect some more ammunition, before I absolutely freaking wrecked him. Purposefully using keyloggers on a govt asset is a big no-no. The next 2-week term break was here, and we began changing out light fittings. It was easy work, and I had a team of 8. Once I kicked them off, I went to work. I added a relay card to each of 6 specially selected security system expansion points, in 6 different buildings. These buildings were where the people worked who disliked Tom the most. I've worked at the school long enough to know all about it. Relays are wonderful. Give me enough relays, timers and contactors and I can make your wildest electrical/control dreams come true. A relay is a switch. That's all. Like a light switch that you can turn on/off without being there. Here's a thing about data cables that not a lot of people know. Data cables connect the data socket in an office to a patch panel in a network rack. There are 8 wires inside, but they each have very specific jobs. 4 are commonly used to carry data traffic, 2, or 1 pair, for upload, 2 for download. Another pair for power to a PO device, like a wireless access point. Say you figured out a way to get one specific pair of these 8 wires into, let's say, a relay. You could then maybe interrupt the upload wires, or download wires, or power wires. Any of these would cause issues for your computer's ability to communicate. If you could turn the relays on and off at opportune times, for selected people, perhaps via a security system you had remote access to, you could maybe introduce weird intermittent faults in a network. If you could do this without it looking like the cables in a network cabinet patch panel had been touched, you might now have a method to cause grief without it being traceable through IT magic. Sure, a competent IT person would assume the cable was damaged, and go test it. But what if when you went to test, it was all okay? It would maybe look like a network system issue. that a competent sysadmin should be able to diagnose and fix. A critical part of all this would be if you had a job, as an electrician, to make alterations to a building's lighting. You could then turn some power circuits off, so that the network cabinet in a building was unpowered for a while. You could then take data cables out of patch panels without it being noticed by a sysadmin. You could run a new length of data cable and terminate it into the patch panel, and make a nice coupled join of the two cables in the ceiling, then split off some pairs to relays. This could be done over 2 days. You could then begin switching the principal's relay on the 3rd day of the 2-week student break. It would be pretty easy keeping track of Tom's whereabouts, so you could make the cable appear okay for testing. Once the principal was good and pissed off at Tom for not being able to fix their issues, you could start switching the admin manager's relay. The next day, you could go to work on the head of English in another building. Then the head of science in another. Having Tom out of his office, and you having a legitimate reason to be in there, lighting job, would mean you could have a real good look around and find the USB keylogger. Standing in Tom's office, I took a picture of the keylogger among the mess on his desk. It might have been hidden in a drawer before that. Then I called my mate, Tom's old boss, the regional director of IT. I told him about the issues I'd had with the door access system, the videos, the keylogger. He came down, took his own picture, and called the principal. On my laptop, in the principal's office, I showed them the videos of Tom's vandalism on the door system. The director examined the keylogger. It was so much worse than I thought. They found not only my system info on it, but info from the school accounting department, director's department and more. Tom had so much incriminating evidence on it, from all kinds of government departments, that he was bend over no lube fricked. When Tom answered the summons to the principal's office, I couldn't help smiling at him. I know that's mean, but I'm only human sometimes. He had no answers to the questions. He tried to claim the keylogger wasn't his. The director shot that down. It had too much stuff, from places Tom had access to. It couldn't be anyone else's. Then I showed him the videos. That look he gave me was priceless. He'd figured out I'd done this to him, and it was glorious. A simple electrician. Go F yourself, Tom. He wasn't prosecuted, because that would have caused too much of a public stink. But Tom got flagged and would never again be able to work in any job, anywhere in the country. Not as a janitor. Or as a contractor doing work. And since graduating uni, he'd only ever worked in Sorry, private industry, he's all yours now. I did say something stupid though. After Tom left principal's office that reveal day, principal asked director if they could send someone competent to look at the school's network issues. Without thinking, I said nah. I'll fix that. I blame having too much fun. After they had me explain what I'd done, because I needed Tom out of his office, I had to cross my heart promise not to do it again. Principal didn't fully understand what I'd done, but director said I was like some evil MacGyver. I put the network cabling back in place and took all my toys home. Thank you for reading. Again, F you Tom. What did you think? What would you have done differently? Share your opinions in the comments. And if you enjoyed the stories, slap that like and subscribe button for more of them, and don't forget to support the original writers with an upvote. Links are in the description. Peace out, and catch you tomorrow.